Everybody ready? Ready?
Yeah.
All right, listen.
It's your weekend show.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
With Bob Biermann.
It's great.
And welcome to your weekend show. I'm your host, Bob Biermann. I'm so glad you're spending part of your New Year's weekend with me. As I was preparing for today's program, I was thinking back to a year ago as I recorded the program that aired just after New Year's Day. And part of that program, I kind of looked back over the year that it occurred at that time, 2015, and looked at the world, the direction we were going, the things that had happened in 2015. And I wondered with anticipation what the year of 2016 would bring. How many of you started last year with ideas of what the year could possibly bring? In terms of where the world was at, the instability that still plagues us to this day. There's still an unstable world out there. And maybe some of the personal triumphs and tragedies you had gone through in the prior year, you were hoping to see some changes and things different. Did the year of 2016 go as you planned? Were the things you thought you'd be doing at the beginning of 2016 what you were ending up doing at the end of 2016? If you're a regular listener to this program, you know that we talk about the changes and the things that can happen in our life. Sometimes small things can become very big things, both profound and sometimes a little bit scary. But life has a tendency to be that way. What changes did you go through in the year of 2016 that you did not anticipate as the year began? Where is your life today compared to where it was 1 year ago? Was it just another year? Or did something profound happen in your life? Have you gone through a tragic time, maybe a time of loss, maybe a time that you felt just beaten down by the world, a time of worry? In our program today, we're going to take a little look at a few of the things that happened internationally around the world in 2016. Some of the predictions that people made at the beginning of the year that didn't turn out exactly as they thought they might. No matter where you live in this world of ours, no matter where you live, whether you live in Europe, the United States, Australia, on the continent of Africa, in Asia, anywhere in the world, there has been some profound change and things that occurred sometimes in the background that'll be a change coming toward you in 2017. I think the key, I really believe the key is I look back and think of the things that I was saying and where I was at in my heart and my mind a year ago and where I am today is far different than I anticipated being 1 year ago today. I am definitely in a vastly different place than I ever would have dreamed of just 1 year ago. Sometimes we make plans in our lives and make decisions of what we think we should be doing with our lives, and God has other plans. I've learned in my faith, in my walk, that sometimes when you think you have it figured out, you find out you have a lot yet to learn. We all can share in that thought. How many times have you thought in your life that I have it figured out and something derails the plan? How many times in your life did you make plans that never panned out the way you thought they would? And also, how many times have you made plans and you felt some disappointment that they didn't work out as you thought they would, but inevitably they came out better than you anticipated? That, my friend, I can attest firsthand, can happen too. Maybe for you, the year of 2016 was a year of change, worry, distress. Maybe it was a time of a new beginning. We're going to talk about that on this program today. When I look back a year ago, as we closed out the year of 2015 with anticipation of all that 2016 could bring us here in the United States, well, there was a presidential election coming up toward the end of the year in November. And the campaigns were just beginning to fire up prior to the primaries in the 50 different states as they worked their way through to a final set of candidates that were up for election in November. And I'm sure, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, there were some surprises for a lot of people. We're going to talk about never assume that you know everything about everything if you live in a bubble world, so to speak. If you live in a small world and you can't see outside of your realm, well, you might be in for some big surprises. Like I say, we have a lot to talk about on this program, but the one thing I really want to bring to your attention as we open up our program today is in spite of all that can happen in this world, all the changes you may have to face in your life, all the difficulty that you had in the past year of 2016, and even the challenges you may be facing as we go into 2017. The one thing I want you to take from this program today, if nothing else, is to know that our God is faithful to you. This is your weekend show, and I'm your host, Bob Biermann.
Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou seen, and all I have needed thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness.
Last week, as we celebrated Christmas and received gifts, I'm sure many of you had time with family and friends and exchanging of gifts. I received a very, very special gift, a gift you cannot put a price on, a piece of my life and my history that I thought was long gone, never to be seen, never to be uncovered, never to be truly known. Growing up, as some of you may know, I was adopted at a young age. I was born in October of 1954, and my mother was not married, which back in that time carried a very different stigma than it does today. And though she tried for quite a while to keep me, she ultimately, at about 14 months, made the very difficult decision to place me up for adoption. One of the gifts that I received this Christmas were some old pictures from the 1950s. Maybe I'd seen some of these pictures before at a different time, many, many years ago. But to be honest, I had forgotten that those pictures even existed. I saw, probably for the first time in my life, a picture of me at the age of 1, sitting in a high chair, with a little birthday cake in front of me with one candle, and a smile of joy on my young face. What makes this picture so profound to me, and I realized it as I looked at it, there's an arm resting on me, obviously the arm of a woman, but that woman has been cut out of that picture where you can't see her face. And I'm realizing from what I learned not that many years ago, the person that was cut out of that picture was my actual birth mother, who still had me at that time at 1 year of age, trying and struggling to keep her young son. But it seemed that the weight of the world and the opinions of others and the pressures of that time made it all but impossible for her to keep this young boy child as her son. And she made that difficult decision to place me up for adoption. There are several pictures that were taken in the latter part of 1955, when I was about 1 year of age. Not knowing as a little boy that my life was about to be radically and profoundly changed in ways I could never imagine in the mind of a little toddler, a little 1-year-old. But it did. I'm thankful that in the 1980s, I did a search and I actually did find my birth mother. And I wish now if I could have one little thing with me at the time that I first met her. She lived in California. I lived in New York. That I could have brought with me some of those pictures that I know that she had surrendered to the adoption agency, the ones that no doubt cut her out of that picture, and to bring her some other pictures of my childhood growing up, to let her know that all in all, I had a good life. And it was by, I believe, God's hand and God's design that I ended up where I was, because the combination of who I was at birth, the environment that I was raised, both good and bad, makes me the person that I am today, just like the circumstances of your life make you the person you are today. To me, to see those pictures of a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-year-old mean the world to me. And like I say, I don't think some of those pictures I have ever seen in my entire life. And here I am now, 62 years of age, looking at who I was in that first year of my life. I look at the smile on my face, the curiosity and the joy of life, and you wonder where life is going to bring you. If you have children and you look at them, you wonder, where are they going to be 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now? What is their life going to be like? Are they going to have a life full of joy and fulfillment? Will their life be a struggle constantly in all that they do? Will they make the right decisions, the right choices when given the opportunity? Will they do the right thing? Now, how does this fit into looking at the new year before us? It has a lot to do with it. Because at this time of the year, we look back on where we've been, where the world has been, the circumstances in which we live, and we look forward to a new year and a new time. The condition of mankind is really unchanged over the centuries. Today we have technology and we have things we never thought we would have, especially when you're my age and look back. I read a story not long ago, and I'm talking in particular for those that live in the United States, Canada, Western Europe, for example, parts of Asia. The things that we own and possess today, even the poorest among us have things that were considered the luxury of the wealthy barely a generation ago. You know, in the 1930s, about the time my mother was born, my biological mother and even my adoptive mother, many homes, well, they didn't have refrigerators as we know them today. They may have had ice boxes where they actually had ice delivered. Air conditioning? No, didn't have it. Many homes in rural parts of the United States, Canada, and Europe didn't even have telephones in the 1930s. And many didn't even have electricity. Today, even the poorest among us have cell phones, cable TV, things that were absolute luxuries just a generation ago become part of what we consider necessities in this day and age. I look at where I have been, and I want you to look at where you have been to date, both the good and the bad, the challenges you've gone through. As we sit here on the threshold in the beginning of 2017, I have to wonder, as I look at what happened in 2016, I have to wonder what kind of exciting things are in store for the year 2017. Will there be trials and tribulations? Perhaps. Will there be some great times and great memories? On that I certainly have hope. But you know, regardless of what happens in this new year, as I said, if you have a true and abiding faith, you don't become overly concerned by the things of this world. want to go back a year ago. As 2015 came to an end and we were on the threshold of 2016 as that year began, 2015 had been a time of change all over the world. So many things happened in 2015, and we had to wonder what 2016 would bring. Let's look at 2016 for just a moment, some of the things that happened. Things like terror have not gone away. Look at places like Germany. Look at France. Look at many locations in the Middle East. The conflict still continues with ideology and terror. Things are unchanged. There is still war going on in parts of the Middle East. There is still anger post-election in the United States. The United States has just gone through one of the most contentious presidential elections in the history of mankind. In the history of this nation, nothing like this has ever been seen that I can find, and as I read history books, as we've seen this past year. At the beginning of 2016, people assumed, particularly in what's called the mainstream media, the prediction of what would happen by November was already in their minds. They thoroughly believed that on the Republican side, this one guy that was running would never make it through the primaries. He would never get the right number of delegates to go to the convention in Cleveland, Ohio, and become the standard bearer and the presidential candidate for the Republican Party. It seemed like a long shot. It seemed like an unwinnable bet. Everybody had their favorites. And the media and so many dismissed one individual as even being a real candidate. Yet by the time the summer hit, it became inevitable that Donald Trump was going to have a sufficient number of delegates to win his party's nomination. In the beginning of 2016, on the Democrat side, the experts predicted with certainty, and they were correct, that the standard bearer for the Democrat Party was going to be Hillary Clinton. And they were further convinced that when we got to November, there was absolutely no way she could possibly lose. One of the worst parts of the presidential election in the United States, in my opinion, was the tremendous amount of misinformation out there, most of it propagated by what is considered the established media. They had chosen their favorite, and whether they had to lie, whether they had to share half-truths, and by the way, a half-truth is still a whole lie, to try to convince voters where they had influence on how to vote. Never before in my lifetime have I seen a year in terms of politics in this country like I saw in 2016. And I think for me, one of the things that will stand out is when Election Day came and the returns came in, and in the wee hours of that Wednesday morning after the election, the results became obvious of who the winner was. was the reaction of America's mainstream media.
It was Donald Trump versus almost all the experts, and as of right now, it looks like Donald Trump was right.
How do we explain that math?
I'm not sure you can.
I just think that we should have seen this coming.
America is crying tonight.
This is the time for real wisdom.
If you want real wisdom, I don't have that to offer at this hour.
The path here is getting to be very narrow.
It's hopeless with terrible values and incompetence galore.
This is a sadness. It is a mourning moment.
And it's, it's troubling.
How do we explain how this is possible?
We've overlooked rural America a bit too much.
No one counted the yard signs.
We're in a weird situation right now.
And it is a moment filled with fear.
Do the brains that got this guy elected president tonight apply to being a good president? I hope there's some connection. Otherwise, we have a dingbat as president.
Tonight is hard to put into perspective.
Now, let me be clear. What I just shared was shared not to promote any kind of political persuasion or agenda, but just to demonstrate how so often the mainstream media we rely on in the United States and Canada and, well, in all of Western civilization can get it wrong. And it's not the first time and the only time in 2016 they misread what the public was really thinking. I think back earlier in 2016, there was another vote that was held in the United Kingdom regarding whether to stay in the European Union or to leave. And even then, the experts in the United Kingdom, Western Europe, and the United States, well, they got it wrong. Here's an example of the reaction that night when the vote came in.
We have now reached the point in the evening where we don't need Birmingham to be sure of the direction of travel. So here at ITV News at just gone 4:30 in the morning, we are calling it for leave to win this referendum. An extraordinary moment in British history, a referendum that David Cameron didn't need to call, that he was certain to win. As it wore on the campaign, he got more and more worried that that was not a given, and the warnings became ever more apocalyptic about just how dangerous and difficult it was for us if we left. We have, as a nation, ignored him. So at 4:25 in the morning, 4:35 even, can't read a watch, can't do many things at this time in the morning, but at 4:35, we at ITV News are calling this as a leave victory, an extraordinary moment in British history. Let's just take a moment. We looked at the White Cliffs of Dover just now. Let's just take a moment as we look at the clock to ponder what has been a long and tumultuous night and to consider what may lie ahead. We've seen Joel Hills giving us the reaction of the markets. Not exactly an attractive picture. You may have heard Theo just talking now a moment ago about how that's largely to be expected.
The point I'm trying to make is how oftentimes the media we rely on gets it wrong. They don't understand how many of the people that are living in their nations and view their news, read their news, hear their news, are reacting in their daily lives. I was raised as a child in New York and spent some of my college years in the city of New York. And so I understand the mindset that happens in the media because I spent a good part of my life in media. We oftentimes live in a world that we envision should be. And we think that everybody else doesn't understand it like we do and should listen to what we tell them and do as they are told. They found out in Brexit, they found out in the election in the United States, that sometimes they ignore a significant part of the population and they get it wrong. And that's probably one of the greatest lessons that came out of the year of 2016. Assuming that you understand what's going on in the hearts and minds of so many people. A lot of people are afraid in this day and age to express what they truly think and believe for fear of being ridiculed. And I can understand that, and I don't blame them one bit. we do live, as we talk about on this program week in and week out, in a very changing and I think also a very dangerous world. When we entered 2016, we never would have anticipated some of the acts of violence that we would see occur around the world. The airport in Brussels, Belgium. The truck driver that ran over people in Nice, France, and recently in a similar incident in Germany at a Christmas market. The Orlando shootings in the United States where those died in the name of jihad. The list goes on and on about the instability of the world in which we live. And more times than not, I believe the media doesn't fully comprehend the dynamics and the things that are truly going on. They try to put it into their mindset and think that they understand and think they can negotiate, think that we can be nice, think we can do all these things to make these problems go away by just being nicer people. But they're learning in Germany that is truly not the case. They're learning in France that is not the case. They've learned in Brussels, Belgium that is not the case. They have learned in the United Kingdom it is not the case. We're learning in the United States it is not the case. 2017, I believe, is going to be, as I said last year at this time, about 2016, a year of some surprises and a year that'll be filled with unanticipated change. As we stand here at the beginning of the year, we don't know what kind of natural disasters may impact certain parts of the world, like an earthquake did back in 2012 out in the Pacific and caused the disaster at Fukushima. We don't know what kind of powder keg in terms of war could break out anywhere on this planet. But I'm not going to live my life in fear about the things that could happen. I'm going to live my life understanding one thing, that I have a message to proclaim, truth to share with you on this program. I look at 2017 and I'm seeing some incredible opportunity, unprecedented. I believe we've been given, to make it simple, a window of opportunity to do some very profound things, not just in the United States and Canada, not just in Western Europe, but globally, in the Caribbean, on the continent of Africa, anywhere where humankind resides, we have this window, I believe, of opportunity to share truth, to share hope, and even to share fulfillment and joy. And so I sit here today in front of this microphone as I begin this new year of 2017 with you, in spite of all that can go wrong, in spite of all the difficulties that may come our way. I'm going to live my life trying to share some good news with you. Earlier this year, I shared with you some thoughts that were on my heart and mind as I just spoke from the heart about the things that I believe that I'm being led to do. When I began 2016, I had a couple of things that I really wanted to try to accomplish before the years came to an end, and they never panned out yet. But as I stand now at 2017, the doors are now beginning to open for some of the things that I want to accomplish and share with you. When I began 2016, my time was very limited because of the work that I was doing, and it was fulfilling work, and I believe much of what I was doing at the time was, well, very productive and for the kingdom of God. But things during the course of 2016, circumstances changed, and God opened some doors, and I took those opportunities. 2016 was a year of major change and positive change in my life. I had great anticipation of what I thought 2016 was going to be, but you know something, as I look back now, I can honestly tell you that I have been blessed beyond my imagination. I was anticipating great blessings in 2016, but those blessings were vastly exceeded beyond my imagination. I don't know what kind of year you had in 2016. I don't know what kind of challenges you may be facing as you're looking at 2017 where you live. There is strife and turmoil all over the globe. And guess what? That is nothing new at all. There's always been strife. There's always been angst. There's always been anger. There's always been more than life's share of problems. I thank God for so much of what happened in my life in 2016. And I wonder what to look forward to in 2017. What are you hoping to find in your life in 2017? Maybe you've lived a life where nothing has worked out for you, and you wonder, will 2017 be more of the same? Or could there be a change in your life? One of the things that I think we have lost over the past 20 years is our ability to communicate properly one with another, to truly share intimately what we think, our opinions, and feel free to do so in such a way as not to offend anybody. We become conditioned that we have to be careful in everything that we say and do for fear of offending somebody. Sometimes we have to get beyond worrying about offending people and just being who we are made by God to be. 2016 was a year where many things that were assumed ended up being wrong. And I believe 2017 could be an extension of that shift in the mindset of people all over the world. I can think of times as I've studied history, I can think of times even in my own lifetime where we have been on the precipice of something disastrous and horrible. I was a very young child in 1962 when the United States literally faced off with our opposing superpower, the Soviet Union, over the Cuban Missile Crisis. And how close to nuclear war did we actually come? I don't think history will ever give us the full answer, but I feel deep inside that we came closer than I think anybody on this planet would care to admit. Think about those that went through World War II, and before most of us were even thought of or born, World War I. Go back during the time of the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages, the plagues. Yeah, there's always been a challenge for humankind. There's always been the potential of disaster. I live in the state of Florida. This past year in October, we faced the real prospect of a very damaging and deadly hurricane, Hurricane Matthew, that came across the Atlantic Ocean and then started working its way up the coast of Florida. And there were dire predictions of what could happen with that storm. For whatever reason, the storm was not as bad as it was predicted to be. And those, for the most part, in its path, were spared what destruction could have been. Now, I know up in the Carolinas, the damage was worse than we had in Florida, though they anticipated direct hits all up and down the East Coast that could have cost multiplied billions of dollars and displacement of people and homes. That didn't happen. It was the first major hurricane to hit the United States since literally 2005, 11 full years. And I think people, including myself, became a little bit, well, not worrying about things, just taking it in stride. But you know, in the final analysis, there are so many things in life you can worry about. And when you spend your time worrying about things, you get nothing of value ever accomplished. 2017, I will predict today, with 100% certainty, is going to have a lot of surprises, many challenges, but I think for many people also a time of restoration, a time of rebuilding, and perhaps a time of newness like we haven't seen in a long time. I am one that doesn't put my hope in people or politics or candidates to get things done. You know, the Bible says in Psalm 146 in verse 3, and this is from the New International Version, which I think gives a good amount of clarity in our English language today. Do not put your trust in princes. Princes would be any kind of government, a political candidate, a political party, a king, a leader. Don't put your trust, don't put your hope, don't put your life behind a person, a politician. As the psalmist says, in human beings or people. Because, see, human beings and politicians and political parties cannot save us. Only God has his hand of salvation for us to get us through the circumstances of our life. Over the centuries, God has been our help and our salvation. This is your weekend show, and I'm your host, Bob Biermann.
Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home under the shadow of thy throne. Still may we dwell secure. Sufficient is thine arm alone, and our defense is sure. Before the hills in order stood, or earth received her frame, from everlasting thou art God, to endless years the same. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. Be thou my guide while life shall last, and our eternal home.
I have no idea of how 2016 treated you. Maybe for you it was a great year. Maybe it was a year of profound change and new direction. Maybe it was a year full of loss and tragedy, a time of hopelessness and even despair. Every year brings us new challenges and brings us even new opportunities. It's what we do with what we are given and the choices we make that can make our year special and one to remember. I started off the program earlier today talking about the greatest Christmas gift I think I've ever received in my life. I received it last week on Christmas Day. And it was a bit of a surprise to see this particular gift. Of all the things that I have been given as a gift in my life, I think this one gift I got this past Christmas is one I'm going to cherish, for the rest of my life. I had a chance to be in touch and see a glimpse of a time in my life long since forgotten in the midst of time and because of my very young age at the time. To see a picture of what I looked like at the age of 1, even the age of perhaps 2, and again at maybe 3.5. Pictures that I told you I don't remember ever seeing in my entire life, and how they have been preserved through these decades until today. I look at that young boy, probably 3.5 years of age, probably a year away from kindergarten, standing there probably on a spring or summer day in the village of Manhasset, Long Island. The expression on my face full of wonderment about life and the things around me. And how could have I ever predicted where my life would bring me to this day? Both the good and the bad, the difficult, the easy, the tragedies and the triumphs. All the things we go through in the human experience that we call life. And to see that expression of wonderment about the world around me. How could have I ever known at that time where my life would take me? Far away from that house on Dewey Street in Manhasset, to places around the country and even around the world, to see the things that I've seen, to do the things that I've done, the opportunities that were laid before me. I go back as I look over those years to a time, and I've tried to figure out where was that pivotal moment that set me on a path to where I am today. I shared in past episodes the story of my adoption, being raised for the first year of my life by a single mother and then put up for adoption about the age of 14 months. Something we don't think about today, but in the context of the time when I was born and in those first formative years was a different time and place. And how that one selfless act to make sure that I had a better life put me on a pathway. Now, did that mean my life was perfect? No. Was it without stress or difficulty? No. But I was put in a place where I could be given the tools in life to, go through life and deal with life, all the good and even the bad times. I hope as you look at 2017, maybe you've gone through a very difficult year, and I truly pray that you'll find peace in your heart and in your mind in this coming new year. In 1788, a poet in Scotland penned down some words. These were some ancient words of an ancient song and phrase. And he converted this phrase that had been around for ages into a poem which became a song. One that I think so many of us know. The phrase that he wrote down, Auld Lang Syne, which roughly translates into English as "For Old Time's Sake." It's the song about preserving old friendships and looking back over the events of the prior year. It's sung today all over the world as a sense of belonging, fellowship, and even new beginnings as we look over the past and look into the future. And there's a bit of that spirit of nostalgia that goes with the song. It's been a much-loved Scottish tradition to sing that song just before midnight. And everybody, they stand in a circle. At the beginning of the final verse, they begin to hold hands. And they cross their arms over their bodies. And so their right hand is holding the person on the left, and the left hand is holding the hand of the person on the right. And as the song comes to an end, they come into the center of that circle, and they have a hug. Auld Lang Syne, for old time's sake. A beautiful, beautiful song about remembering those things that have brought us to the place we are today, and to look forward with hope to the year that is yet to come. The words of Auld Lang Syne, for old time's sake.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought in mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and Auld Lang Syne, for Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup, oh kindness yet, for Auld Lang Syne.
We twa here on our braes and put the gowans fine, but we wonder money's our way with it, so no Lang Syne.
For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup, oh kindness yet, for Auld Lang Syne.
What do you hope for in the year of 2017? Are you looking for a better and brighter year? Are you looking for change in your life. I hope this journey we've had during this past year of 2016 has been helpful for you. That's why we produce your weekend show each and every week, to give you some hope in difficult times. That's why the program, your weekend show, is here. If you would like to find out more about this radio program, why not visit our website this weekend, yourweekendshow.com. That's yourweekendshow.com. We can also be found on Facebook at Your Weekend Show. All one word, Your Weekend Show. Would you visit our webpage or go see us on Facebook and even like us if you like the program? It would mean so much for me as we finish out this year of 2016 and begin the new year together of 2017. As I said during the program, I have some great hope and anticipation for what 2017 can bring. I know we face a time that can be difficult. I know we face many challenges in the world and our nations, and I know many people are facing some personal tragedies and hardships in their own life. And I pray that as we look back over the year and look at the year ahead, no matter what kind of a year you had, good or bad, may even this coming year be better for you. But you know, even if 2017 becomes a difficult year, a year of challenges, a year of loss, a year of tragedy, at the end, it can still be a good year. I pray that whatever you're going through right now, whatever change you're about to go through will be a positive change for you, that you'll get through difficult times and know that the God of the universe, the one that loves you, is there to uphold you and sustain you in this coming year. None of us know what the future brings. Nobody knows the good or the bad that may or may not come. But I pray that you will do as I am doing, take each day that we are given and count it as joy and a blessing, and deal with those things today that God gives you for today. Don't be overly concerned about the future, and please don't live in the past, especially if you had a difficult year. Don't let the difficulties define you. Don't let the things that went wrong hold you back from all you have been created to be. I pray the year of 2017 will be a year of opportunity, unprecedented in your life. And I pray this program can be a part of your life. And I hope you'll take the time to share it with your family and friends. I count it a joy going into what'll be the third year, just a little over a month from now, of doing your weekend show. And I wonder what this year has in store. Until next week at this same time, this is Bob Biermann, wishing God's greatest blessings upon you.
It's your weekend show with Bob Biermann.